everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi Facebook Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I am your host, Dan Z. Thrilled to be here with you, talking some Star Wars, and what a show we have for you. Do you remember a few months ago when the author of William Shakespeare's Star Wars series, Ian Desher, was here to answer your specific questions? Well, tonight we have an extra special treat for you, because Steve Sansweet, that's right, the world's greatest Star Wars collector, the guy who helped to put fandom on the map alongside Dan Madsen, is going to be here on Coffee with Kenobi's Facebook Live to answer your questions. And we've got a lot of our good friends here tonight. Hello, Andrew. Nick, Mando Monday, that's right. Daniel, hello. Tom, Tom is here tonight. Everybody is thrilled. By the way, Thursday is Tom's birthday. He does not want me to tell you that, which is exactly why I am, because he deserves lots of love, because he's a great guy. So be sure to wish Tom a happy birthday on Thursday. Hello, Ross. Yes, indeed. Hello, Blake. We're the Mandalorians. I like that. Hey, Tyler, what's up, my friend? Terry, good to see you. Hello, Jim. Welcome, my friend. And Minta, hello. So good to see you all. And Lucy, sorry about that. Lisa is here, too. Hey, Mark, what's up, man? Wow. Great people here. Yep. See, Tom, the birthday love's already spreading, my brother. Already spreading. Hello, John. Good to see you. Man, see, I got the hair a little shorter than before. Got the little, looks a little, still getting a little used to it, of course. Of course I did, buddy. You know who I am. All right, we got a big show, and the Bears are on. So, we've got lots of exciting things going on. Hopefully the Bears thing is exciting. Let's go ahead and jump right into what is brewing in the world of Star Wars this week.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
All in favor of dancing and happy birthday to Tom, say aye. Happy birthday to you, Thomas Gross. There you go. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, Lisa is also a November birthday gal. So, here we go. Yeah, everybody, Lisa and Tom here. We got all of our Hall of Famers here. Ian says, we all hope Tom gets to enjoy an endless supply of Monster Mix on Thursday. Nice. Look at that. CWK pour over. Oh, Mark, happy birthday to you from November 7th. That's fantastic. Speaking of CWK pour over, I'll just throw that up here right now since we're talking about it. But this week, it was really fun. We did holiday hot takes. It was just sort of a light way to address some conversations that are somewhat controversial for Christmas. And these are like not really controversial. They were just fun ones. For example, when is it too early to put up Christmas decorations? When is the right time? When you put your presents under the tree? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? All that great stuff. So be sure to listen to that. It was a lot of fun. But honestly, I don't really want to address a whole lot of stuff because we've got our top 5 Mando things. And I want you to get right to the conversation with Steve, which is absolutely fantastic. Lisa, you're not old. Sorry, not old. We can't accept that. I'm sorry. All right, let's go ahead and go into our top 5s. Before we do, I do want to point out this has been all over social media, but on Sunday, November 29th, from 1 to 2, I will be doing a book signing at the Peoria Riverfront Museum here in Peoria, Illinois. There will be a limited number of books available for the socially distanced event, and then from 12:30 to 1, there will be an author Q&A, so you can ask me anything after you look through the book, and I'd be happy to address whatever I can. So that will be a fun time. All right, top 5 moments from the Heiress. The Heiress was a fantastic episode. Those of you who listen to Coffee with Kenobi this week, and there were 2 shows this week, as you know, I was pretty specific with Tom and Colby how much I did not like last week's episode, but this week's episode, The Heiress, was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Tom is already salivating over the Monster Mix. Tyler is going to loiter over that signing as well. Tyler, that would be great. It's always wonderful to have you. Always great to have you. All right. So, top 5 this week for top 5 moments from The Heiress. Number 5 for me is the cargo hold evac. So, what that means, if you saw it, there's that great moment where they think they've trapped the Mandalorians in that little cargo hold, and then the commander of that ship, whatever, I don't know what his actual official title is, he says, "You're what? You what?" They're in the cargo hold. Boom, it opens up. Everybody goes flying out of the airlock, or out of the opening of the ship, or the starship, right into the open air. And it was pretty funny and everyone thought, all right, the Mandalorians are going to take over, and it was pretty entertaining. LJ, what's up? Good to have you, man. Hey, I'll accept your late pass anytime. Good to have you. Phil, we're excited to have you on. Mary's number 5, the child playing nicely with the frog babies. That was adorable. That was definitely super cute. Number 5 for Ross. Titus Welliver from Deadwood is a perfect Imperial captain and loyal follower of Moff Gideon. Long live the Empire. Love the Sith lightning visual of his demise. I caught that too. Like, that reminds me of the Sith, so that was good. And everyone was telling me that he was famous, and I didn't recognize him because I had never watched Deadwood. So thank you, Ross. I appreciate that. Number 5 for Ian is the homage to Apollo 13. Yes, the way that the Razor Crest came onto Mon Cala was almost shot for shot of Bryce Dallas Howard, the director of this. Her father's amazing movie, Apollo 13. Number 5 for Jim, the Walker pulling the Razor Crest out of the water. Great cinematography, sound mixing, and visual effects. I agree. That was really great. Let's see what else we have here. Mark's number 5, the Mando's reaction to Din Djarin's apparent religious extremism. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, Mark. I thought that was really fascinating too. Number 5, the Frog Lady and her husband reunite. Such a sweet moment. You know, I mean, it really was. That was something that could have been, I don't know, played for laughs or I don't know what, but it was actually really heartfelt, and I really liked it too. Number 5 for Blake, the cinematography. I'm going to try that again. The cinematography deserves praise this week. The way the shots from the ships to the Mando ship flying around was stunning. I agree. Ilum really continues to outdo themselves. Another Deadwood cameo. Titus Welliver as the Imperial captain was another great casting. There you go. That's come up now twice. So everyone loves that. Number 5, chowder tube, gross and alive food. Yeah, that was fascinating, and it would have been very, very handy to have that if that was a real thing in the world, but also pretty gross. 5 for Andrew is the Mon Calamari sweaters. I saw a lot of comparisons. I think Clayton Sandell posted a picture of the Mon Calamari and then Chris Evans in Knives Out, which is pretty funny. Tyler's number 5, Sasha Banks. I'm an on and off WWE fan, so it was cool seeing Sasha Banks play Costa Reeves. I hope she gets to show more of the swagger she's known for. Yes, and this week with James Burns and Matt Sheehan from WMBD News, we did a review of this episode, which is going to air tomorrow morning, and we talked about Sasha Banks and give a little bit of background on her character in the WWE. Daniel, when the child and the egg get booted into the sea monster. Oh, really? Oh, man. Daniel, you're going to have to explain yourself, buddy, because that was like a very, like, kind of a moment where you were very panicked, because that was really scary. I knew the child would be in peril this episode, and wow, was he ever. Ross and I on the same page, really. That's a good sign. It is a good sign. Phil, why couldn't Baby Yoda pull a Yoda and use the Force to bring the Razor Crest out of the water? Well, that takes a little bit of time. He's only 50, he's not 900. So, Jim says, I totally agree. Or Tom says, Jim, I totally agree. I love seeing the Razor Crest getting pulled out too. I don't know why, but it was so cool. It was cool. Number 5, don't play with your food line had me. Oh, good. Simba, good to have you, brother. That's awesome. Yeah, that was funny. Tom, did you give it number 5? I can't remember. Let me give Mason's number 5. He actually had his list way before any of us. Number 5 for Mason is the tadpole and child. So at the moment that I think Mary talked about earlier, where Yoda or the child was petting that little tadpole, and they were both kind of like towards each other, and it was very, very cute. All right, let's go to number 4. And Mary, am I right? Are you at Disney World right now watching the show? Because that is incredible dedication. You definitely get the MVP of the week for a coffee with Kenobi. There's no doubt about that. Number 4, I put Raining Stormtroopers, because there's that great sequence when the Mandalorians first start to take that ship, and they say, I think they're pirates, and all of a sudden you see the windshield, for lack of a better word, of the front of the ship, and the Stormtrooper goes, poof, and lands on top of it. And it was comical and also very like action, like Die Hard action level challenging. And you thought, boy, this is serious. These guys and these ladies mean business. So I thought, well, that's pretty intense for Star Wars. Number 4 for Mary, the Razor Crest falling in the water. Number 4 for, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Mason's number 5 was when everybody gets evacuated from the cargo hold, the same as mine, but Mason's number 4 is a tadpole and child. So I fixed that for you, buddy. Jim's number 4, the bombastic instance of the Mandalorian theme as the ship initially sets out to sea. Nice. There's a lot with the Mandalorian theme that they did, which I'm going to talk about later too. Just go back to the Polynesian from Batu. Mary, that's awesome. Wow. Again, MVP. Bright Sons are Rising moons, is that what they say at nighttime? Rising moons? I believe so. Oh, well, it's good to have you, of course. Minta, number 4, Sasha Banks' debut in The Mandalorian. I had a hunch from the beginning that she was a Mandalorian. Well, Minta, your insights serve you well, my friend. That is exactly right. Number 4, for LJ, Bo-Katan holding out her hand to save Din. Nice callback to Din being saved by the Death Watch with the hand being extended. You're right. And actually, Clayton texted me about that and pointed that out too. So there you go, LJ. You're on wavelengths with a lot of our wise friends here at Coffee with Kenobi. Number 4 for Ross, the child seeing the loving reunion of Frog Lady and Frog Man at the Trask port, followed by the same group seeing that first tadpole born. Baby Yoda needed to see this familial love and see the eggs were much more than snacks. Ross, yet again, very well said. Ian says, Mary, hope you're having a blast. Yeah, Mary, we're all living vicariously through you. It's so cool. Number 4 for Andrew, articulated Quarren face tentacles. Yeah, the puppetry and the effects on this are fantastic. Mark's not at all jealous, and I don't believe you, Mark. We're all jealous. Number 4 for Ian, Dank Ferrick, absolutely. 4 for Mark, Baby Yoda watching the eggs hatch and then crying when he had to go home. Yeah, that was sweet. That was like both of them were kind of reacting to that. Number 4, seeing Mon Cala again was great. Always loved that race. Yeah, and I think this is the first time we've seen it in live action, if memory serves. Rising Moons it is. Okay, I was right. Good. I thought so. Number 4 for Tyler, the Razor Crest falling into the water was a shocking but comical scene. It got a laugh and a gasp out of me. I was exactly the same, Tyler. It's like, and then you kind of laugh because they raise it up and they're just like exasperated. Like another one of these flyboy pilots. Carter, hello, man. Carter says, when the frog baby actually had their baby, made Baby Yoda's snacks seem less impactful. Yeah, and there was a split second where I was like, oh no, he's not going to eat this tadpole, is he? And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And Ian says, yes, we are. Mary says that. I'm sorry. My mind's all over the place. I should never have watched the Bears game before this. I got too keyed up. Phil says, when the Mando killed the octopus attacking Baby Yoda, they got left on the ship when they left the dock and then fed it to Baby Yoda. That was pretty poetic. Number 4 for Daniel, the Razor Crest falling off the platform. Absolutely. All right, I better move it up a little bit faster here. Number 3 for me is the Melancholy Mando. So what do I mean by that? After we discover that the Way, or the Watch, not the Death Watch, sorry, Thomas Gross, the Watch is a sect that the Mandalorian is raised on. That's why he doesn't take off his helmet. When he flies off, then they show the 3 other Mandalorians flying off. They play the Mandalorian theme. It's very, very slow and melancholy and poignant. And I'm not sure if this was what you're talking about before, Jim, but it really stood out to me. It was very, very emotional. And I thought it was cool that they took that theme and changed it like that. Number 3 for Mason is when Bo-Katan shows up, which I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot very, very soon. And here's everybody else is jumping up here. Number 3 for Jim, Moff Gideon, Longs Live the Empire. Very chilling. It reminded me a lot of Krennic's confrontation with Galen and his engineers in Rogue One. You know what? I felt a lot of echoes of Rogue One in some of the ways that the Empire socialized on this one, Jim. So I agree. Number 3 for Andrew, close the doors. All of them. Perfect Star Wars humor. Yeah, that Imperial officer was kind of like, almost like this weird combo of like somebody they pulled off the streets to be in an Imperial uniform and legitimately like frightened about what was going to happen because the Mandalorians were going to take care of business. Mary's number 3, the Frog family reunion. Number 3 for Minta, I can give it fuel if it can hold fuel. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Mary, I should probably tell you that my brother Sean was actually in Batu in Orlando today too. So I wonder if you two cross paths. How about that? That's crazy. And Tom is also Mr. Gross to you. Carter says, good to see you. 3 for Mark, the Mandos taking the Imperial ship, the entire sequence. Yeah, it's a great action-packed sequence. It's very kind of a newish way to see action in Star Wars, but also very familiar too. 3 for Ross, the Mandalorian quartet landing on the Imperial freighter. Such strong solo Star Wars story vibes from the Vandor train heist scene. Another nod from Bryce Dallas Howard to her father. See also Apollo 13. Yes, absolutely, Ross. Good call on that comparison there too. Phil says, I'm convinced that Baby Yoda's snake is Mikey. He eats anything. That's a nice callback to Life cereal. Ian, number 3, so many flying Mandalorians. Seeing this in live action will never get old. Yeah, it's always fantastic and spectacular. Number 3 for Tyler, the Ahsoka name drop. I had a feeling she was going to appear this season, but hearing that confirmation got me so excited. That's going to come up on my list pretty soon. Number 3 for Nick, Mando realizing his way is not the only way really sets up the whole series in a new way. Yeah, we haven't seen the last of that. Number 3 for Tom, me thinking I had an up on Dan with Death Watch and then was wrong. It's not that you were wrong, Tom, so much as that I was right. No, just kidding. Absolutely kidding. No, it's sort of unclear, but it's also sort of crystal clear. So it'll be fun to see that play out. It's always fun to be able to chat with you about that, to chat with all of you. Number 3 for Blake, seeing a boat using the Star Wars universe. I love that too. That was one of the things I was most excited about from that trailer. Number 3 for Carter, when the Quarren crew leader slapped the cradle into the pit. Super unexpected. They had set up the water scene in that trailer, so we were all likely expecting them to go on this great trip, great idea. That was, as we said, really intense. Daniel, that first shot when the Mandos came in to rescue the child and Din was also, I agree, spectacular. Number 3, LJ, seeing a team of Mandalorians working together. We've seen it in animation, but it was fun to see them kicking butt in live action. I agree. Okay, let's go to number 2. I mentioned number 3 for Mason, Bo-Katan showing up. My number 2 is Bo-Katan appears. So, that sequence where the child is thrust in that water and the Mandalorian dives in. I'm still not sure why he didn't go in to save the child first as opposed to trying to get out, but I don't know. Splitting hairs probably. And then all of a sudden this Mandalorian shows up and I was like, oh, sweet. Because even though I saw the title of the Heiress, it didn't strike me that, this could be Bo-Katan's opportunity, but I didn't hit it. Again, I've been good about sort of turning off my brain to that aspect of things. But then when she turns around and you see the helmet, you just think, oh my gosh, it's Bo-Katan, live action. There's the armor, and then she starts fighting, and you hear Katie Sackhoff. Thrilling beyond words, one of the most thrilling experiences I've felt in Star Wars in a long time. Goosebumps, excitement. Mason and I were thrilled to the moon. Spectacular. Number 2 for Mason, by the way, is when the Quarren says, you killed my brother, no, I'm going to kill you. That big action sequence, that was Mason's number 2. All right, let's see what everybody else had. Number 2 for Andrew, the arrival of Clan Kryze. I sat bolt upright when I first got a glimpse of that helmet and didn't stop grinning until the end credits. Yeah, spectacular. Terry didn't have a time to create a top 5, but he has 2. The presence of additional Mandalorians. Absolutely, Terry. Hey, anything is good, man. We're just happy to have you here. Jim's number 2, the Mandalorians landing on the Imperial ship and taking out the first of the troopers. The level this season has been photographing Mandalorians in flight. It's great. 2 for Aminta, like many of ours, Bo-Katan, enough said. Yeah, and can we just give Bo-Katan her own Disney Plus series? I mean, I'm in. I'm sure you're all in as well. Number 2 for Tom, the reunion of the mom and dad with the eggs, the music, the emotion, so well done. It really was. Again, it was cool they could get us to feel that pathos from that sequence. 2 for Ian, Baby Yoda learning about the precious fragility of life. Absolutely. 2 for Mark, also the Bo-Katan reveal. 2 for Tyler, the Frog People reunion. Most wholesome moment he's seen in all of Star Wars. I was grinning from ear to ear and trying not to get emotional during it and made everything in episode 2 worth it. I agree. There's a lot of that reunion and a lot of what a lot of us had mentioned just now about Bo-Katan showing up that was big. Word for word, my answer. Boom. Let's see. Carter, where'd it go? Brian says, how many are there? About 10. Oh, I see 4 heat signatures. Yeah, that one was cool, wasn't it? Seeing it like that. We got a lot of cool inside the helmet stuff. Eric, Katie Sackhoff knocked it out of the park. She sure did. Carter, the whole flight scene on the Imperial cargo ship, phenomenal fights. And yeah, they've stepped up their game with the action. It was already great in season 1, but it's really spectacular now. Let's see. Ahsoka name drop. There's more to hope for in connecting all the dots from Rebels to post Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. Now that we know there's a Force user alive outside of Luke still roaming around in a big way, it seems. It's right. 2 for Blake, the Mandos raiding that Imperial ship was so awesome. It was. Number 2 for Ross, Bryce, Dallas Howard knocking it out of the park. I especially loved how she used a Cara Dune line from her season 1 chapter and had Jaron using it. This is more than I signed up for. Oh yeah, man, good. You're doing some good connections there. 2 for Daniel, the shot of Bo-Katan's helmet, like, hey, is that what I think it is? Awesome. Yep, that's exactly how I felt. Just like, and then you see the designer on the eyes and you know. LJ's number 2, Bo-Katan appears. The helmet and armor were absolutely perfect. Yes. But to me, it doesn't get any better than number 1. Hearing the words Ahsoka Tano in live action. Boom! Also number 1 for Mason, who said Ahsoka is mentioned. Just spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Ahsoka Tano, knowing, and she's on the planet Caladan, which those of you who've been listening to CWK pour over for a while know That's also the name of my Dungeons & Dragons character who's a fighter. Now, it's not spelled the same according to the closed caption, but still, and it's a purely coincidence, but I got a big kick out of that, and that was pretty fun. All right, let's see your number ones. Then we're going to get to our conversation with Steve Sansweet. Number one for Jim, Bo-Katan's initial appearance. She's one of my favorites, and I was super excited to see her again. Yeah, I love Bo-Katan. I like her even more now after seeing this. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know. I do. So number one for Terry, the first time I remember hearing Ahsoka's name by live-action character, has she ever been referred to in a non-animated presentation? No. Of course, we hear her voice in The Rise of Skywalker, but we've never actually heard her mentioned. Number one for Mark, also Ahsoka. Yeah, of course. It's going to be all of our number ones, I would assume. Minta's number one. Ahsoka's name dropped the moment her name was spoken. I just got incredibly giddy. Can't wait to see her in the series. I know. Still wish there for a miracle that it would be Ashley, but, you know. Ian's number one, reunion of Frog Lady and Frogman. A beautiful moment that reminded me of all the airport reunions at the beginning of Love Actually. Oh, that's a good callback. I like that. Number one, Bo-Katan's mention of Ahsoka from Tom. Mary Bo-Katan's appearing and taking off her helmet. Number one for Tyler, live action Bo-Katan. I know everyone said everything about it, but still amazing, jaw dropping. It was great. Number one for Ross, a combo of Dan's 1 and 2. Bo-Katan Kryze and her unmistakable helmet, first appearing on the Quarren boat. Then a reference to Ahsoka Tano at the end of the episode. Chills in both instances. Absolutely. Andrew, learning that Din's clan is apparently the only one who is don't remove your helmet rule, and that he assumes all Mandalorians have the same rule. What is that about? Love that we get answers that lead to more questions. Yes, and actually, it's referred to a little bit in that book right there. And when Pablo came on Coffee with Kenobi a couple weeks ago, he did kind of give us a hint about that. So check it out. Pretty cool stuff. Phil, loved when the Mandalorians were scooping out the barge, the top of the Razor Crest, and said it would be a piece of cake to get past these stormtroopers because they never hit their targets. I thought that was funny too. And sometimes that joke can be overplayed, but I thought it was used perfectly here. Number one for Carter, I touched on the separation of the ways between Mandalorian factions. I talked to you about this in class. Yes, we did talk about that. We also see if they have Din reconnect with the armor from season 1. Oh, and undoubtedly that's got to happen. I think you'll be furious that he's been spoon-fed a religion with such strict codes after meeting others. I don't know. I think that's going to be a constant kind of struggle. There's a lot to unpack there. Next is Bo-Katan. It's Katie Sackhoff still. It still connects my Battlestar and Star Wars universes. You really can't get much better than Battlestar Galactica. Or if you haven't seen that, you need to check that out for sure, everybody. Daniel, when Tano was named, my wife and I both looked at each other simultaneously and smiled, laughed, and cried. Oh, yeah, man. The emotions of that, just spectacular. Number one, for Blake, Bo-Katan explaining about Din's clan, answered so much, but also set up future questions, which is my favorite way to do Star Wars. So that's cool, Blake. I love it. Eric, hearing Ahsoka's name in live action, I'll probably hearing Ian McDiarmid say Ezra Bridger. I agree. The same kind of like that melding of these two worlds that we love in different generations, acknowledging and giving affirmation to the other is great. Number one, the explanation for LJ behind why Din doesn't remove his helmet. Hearing it was an extremist splinter group answered a lot of questions. I need more information, and I need it now. Well, LJ, we'll just have Lucasfilm call you up right now, buddy. In fact, hold on 1 second. Oh, they're busy, but we'll get to you. Nick, to be honest, everything we've talked about makes this one of my favorite episodes. Oh, it's spectacular. It's spectacular. Mark, all this has happened before and it'll happen again. Could easily be the next Mando mantra. I agree, and I like that they blend the familiar with the things that are just very, very wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. Next week, of course, is going to be top 5 moments from the Mandalorian Chapter 12. I almost broke off because, as you noticed on Coffee with Kenobi last week and this week, we've had 2 episodes. This week, we had Kyle Newman on to talk about Heroes Feast, the official D&D cookbook. It was the first time I'd been able to have Kyle on the show. We talked through the years, and he helped me. I interviewed him for a Star Wars Insider article I did years ago. So that was cool. We also talked about, on 368, we talked about The Mandalorian and the Passenger. And then this week, again, on Pulver, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we talked about holiday hot takes. So that was really fun. So now we're going to jump into my video that I did, my conversation with Steve Sansweet. Steve's going to be on Coffee with Kenobi this week. Probably I will release that one on Thursday. And he was wonderful. He's great. He and I have become good friends, and I'm really proud of that because he's just someone I've always looked up to. But I've got 2 interviews with Steve this week. The first one is one you're about to watch right now. I put out the call on CWK Cafe, and I asked you to tell me what you want to ask Steve Sansweet about Star Wars and collecting. And as you know, Steve is the CEO of Rancho Obi-Wan, the world's largest collection of Star Wars memorabilia. And everybody who asked a question in the time that I asked jumped in there, and Steve answered your questions personally. I mean, very exciting stuff. I'm really proud that we could make that happen, bridge that connection. So here is the conversation with Steve Sansweet. Get ready for a blast. We have a very special guest with us tonight on Facebook Live. As promised, we are joined by CEO of Rancho Obi-Wan, Steve Sansweet. Steve, welcome to Facebook Live on Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you very much, Dan. Where's the coffee? I asked you that the very first time, and you sent me a Starbucks gift card.
That's right.
I can't ask you that again, in all seriousness.
That was good. That was really, really fun. You were our first guest on our 1-year anniversary show, and I tell you what, but we thought we won the lottery, and you were, of course, charming and wonderful, and it's always great to chat with you. Of course, you were on Coffee with Kenobi this week, and we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about the Rancho Obi-Wan virtual gala, which is coming up very, very soon, and then we're also I have some questions that a lot of our loyal Coffee with Kenobi family members have submitted for you as well, but please, most importantly, talk to us about the virtual gala that Rancho Obi-Wan has cooking for us.
Well, because we couldn't have our actual gala, obviously, because of the pandemic, we decided to have a virtual gala on November 21st. You can go to ranchoobiwan.org, get all of the details there. The tickets are $30, and we're going to have up to 9 hours of Star Wars goodness, entertainment streaming for you that day, with a preview on November 20th. We have conversations that I'm going to be doing with Star Wars celebrities like Dave Filoni, Ashley Eckstein, James Arnold Taylor, Sam Witwer, Ben Burt, 4-time Oscar-winning sound designer, and lots of artists and Star Wars fellow fans, writers, people who have worked in the fan communities to set up the 501st Legion, the Mando Mercs, just all kinds of great people, R2 builders. People who have worked at Lucasfilm, people who love Star Wars and share their passion with us.
It's wonderful, and you've also got a lot of activity. So this is not a passive entertainment experience. This is something that people get to be a part of the action.
We have a lot of interactive things coming up. We have a costume contest. We have a scavenger hunt, which I love a scavenger hunt. Our board of directors member Duncan Jenkins, who's a fellow collector in the Kansas City area, has come up with a great way to so regardless of what you have or may not have in your around you, you've got an hour from when you download the sheet of 10 items for the scavenger hunt, and there are 3 levels for each item. Nailed it? Well, pretty close, but I'm a Star Wars fan. Well, not so close, but we love you anyway. So you can get 3, 2, 1 points for each of the 10 items. We've got a prize wheel that Ann Newman, the curator of Rancho Obi-Wan, will be spinning. You'll be able to win all kinds of prizes and booby prizes too, like DC action figures. We'll have a live auction, which is always one of the highlights of the Rancho Obi-Wan Gala, where we're really limited to about 125 to 150 people at the live gala. So this is a way that we can open it up, and people who couldn't fly in, or we've had people from all over the world come to the gala. A lot of people just couldn't make it, couldn't afford it. This is a real great way to join us for the gala, for our virtual gala. We've got Spencer Brinkerhoff doing a how to draw a Star Wars character. You can do this at home with your kids. We have a trivia contest that will take place separately from the bulk of the programming. We have a wine tasting which is closed. The final sale of the tickets, we did really well on that. And people will be getting Skywalker Ranch wine, and then after they're nicely mellow on the Skywalker Ranch wine, then the trivia contest takes place. And we'll have a live Q&A with me, and we'll have some exclusive gala merchandise in the Rancho store. So all of that can be done by going to ranchoobiwan.org. You can look at everything, and then you can purchase a ticket for $30.
It's wonderful.
And that all goes to support the serious business of Rancho Obi-Wan, such as maintenance and security and insurance and things of that nature.
That's right. And all of the money that is raised for Rancho Obi-Wan year round, gala or not, none of it goes to purchase collectibles. It's all done to take care of this wonderful museum. I've had the good fortune of being there 3 separate occasions, and I can promise you, everybody watching tonight, it's absolutely one of the finest ways to celebrate your love of Star Wars with this wonderful community that we have. It's going to be exciting.
We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to a lot of fans joining in. We've already sold a bunch of tickets, and we're looking forward to selling some more.
I love it. Looking at you, Coffee with Kenobi community. Be sure to sign up at the for the Rancho Obi-Wan virtual gala. It's going to be amazing. Speaking of amazing, Steve, I put the call out and said I was going to speak with you, and we got a lot of wonderful questions people want to ask you. I did say, I think you'll appreciate this. I did say, look, Steve has answered a lot of questions over the years. Let's try to come up with some things he's never heard before.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I reserve the right to say, I'm not sure about that.
So Andrew Harrison says, what application or method do they use to catalog the collection? I've been looking for the perfect solution for my own collection for a long time. I would love to know how the curator of the largest collection in the world keeps track of what they have and where everything is located.
Well, Anne has developed a FileMaker database that we use. And the good news about this is our longer term plans for the virtual museum is to make this database available online.
Wow.
So we'll have the Rancho Obi-Wan collection, but you'll also be able to use that to tick off what you have in your own collection. So we're starting in various areas, and then we're going to expand it to all of the categories that you can imagine. But it's a FileMaker database, so it's the item, it's all kinds of information about the item. Every item has a unique number, because sometimes we have 2 or 3 of the same thing, but each one of those will get a unique number, and we'll know one of them may be on the museum shelves. The other 2 may be in the warehouse, and we'll know where those are. But it's all through this unique FileMaker database. We found FileMaker to be a very adaptable program to be able to add all kinds of functions to it and sort it in all kinds of ways. So we're very happy with that. Clearly, this year has delayed us somewhat in getting this online, but we're working on the other parts of the virtual museum. But eventually, this will be part of that. But we highly recommend the FileMaker as a good way to start.
That's great. Well, he's a huge collector, so that's definitely going to be beneficial. I've always wondered that myself. Ian Thompson wants to know, which item in the vast Rancho Obi-Wan collection is most personally meaningful to you? That might depend on the day, too, really.
It might depend on that day's mail. But there is one thing which is also my favorite item in the museum that is personally meaningful to me, and that is the large canvas banner with the Star Wars logo and the Ralph McQuarrie art of the Star Killer, taken from a cast and crew shirt and glued onto the banner. The logo, an early Star Wars logo, hand painted by Joe Johnston, who was at that point the art director of Industrial Light and Magic, and of course has gone on to become a movie director. And this was used, Charlie Lippincott, who was the head of marketing and merchandising and licensing and so much more in the early days of Lucasfilm, was used to go to fan conventions, because Charlie was a geek himself, a comic geek, and knew about fans and how they related to things, and wanted to go out and tell fans about Star Wars. So in 1976, he did about 4 or 5 conventions, and mostly in Southern California, but also Worldcon in Kansas City that year. And this banner accompanied him to San Diego Comic-Con and Worldcon. We have photos of both of those places, so we know for sure they were at both of those places. So this was the beginning of fan relations for Lucasfilm. And many years later, when I started at Lucasfilm in 1996, wow, I followed in Charlie Lippincott's footsteps and Craig Miller's footsteps, and this was really the beginning of fan relations as it exists today.
That's great. What a great answer too. Oh man. I had seen that. I didn't realize the steep history of that. Here's an interesting one. Speaking of history, Mark Kleinheinz wants to know what decade, in your opinion, produced the most emotionally evocative collectibles / merchandising tie-ins. I mean, my initial thought would be the '70s, but that's probably too easy. That's a really hard one.
That's a very tough question, and
Yeah.
that's one of those questions like, ask me again next week and it may be different.
Uh huh.
But I think the '70s would be that because the '70s merchandise, the licensing of movies was not a thing until Star Wars came along. They had tried with a movie called the first Doctor Dolittle movie, and it was a huge failure. People were more successful licensing television shows because it was on every week, but the thought was, well, we can't license movies because by the time we find out whether it's going to be a success or not, it will take us too long to make the merchandise, and therefore, people won't remember the movie by the time the merchandise came out. Not the mindset, oh, we'll make the merchandise in advance of the movie and have it ready on the shelves 4 weeks before the movie premieres. That's a whole nother thing.
Yes.
So the merchandise really had to catch up with the demand. And that's why I think Star Wars merchandise was so successful in the early days. I mean, at first we saw the T-shirt transfers, and you had to go to the T-shirt shops. They didn't even sell initially in retail T-shirts with Star Wars art on it. You had to go to the T-shirt shops, and there would be 30 different decals that you could get pressed onto the shirts. And you would see in the early films when the commercials, they'd be doing disco moves, and people would be just jumping up and down with their Star Wars T-shirts on, and the posters, and then the first action figures in early 1978, the puzzles. I mean, all that stuff is very evocative, and it brings you back to that time when things were a lot simpler and you were getting your first kick off of the original Star Wars, and then Empire Strikes Back, the Empire Strikes Back after that. And this was the early days of Star Wars fandom, and people were making their own costumes until Ben Cooper came out with costumes and Don Post Jr. came out with the Star Wars masks. That was a simpler and maybe a better time,
Right.
perhaps.
Then a lot of those things you're mentioning are some of my favorite things to see at the museum because they do bring back those. I remember visibly after I was ice skating, going into a T-shirt shop that was all like the iron-ons, and then we had the Vader that later ended up becoming the logo on the Darth Vader Underoos T-shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Indeed. The Underoos. How can I forget the Underoos?
Those are great. Greg McLaughlin, he runs the Rebel Base Card podcast, and he wants to know if you add to the Topps cards collection annually.
Well, I was buying every series of Star Wars Topps card that there was until Topps started making 10 series a year, and some of the series cost $100 a box for 8 cards.
Yeah.
And I must say, Topps sort of lost me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still buy a shelf box of the cards, but I used to collect everything, and some of the card series from not that long ago, I tried to get like every artist who was doing art for the Topps cards, and I mean, there's one series that I spent 4 figures on to try to collect maybe almost 5 figures on. And then I realized this is insane. Pieces of cardboard, which I have to take the binder off the shelf and look at. I mean, they still do a great job, but I can't buy everything these days. I'm not a wealthy. People think I'm a millionaire. I'm not a wealthy man. I've just spent all my money buying things new,
Mm-hmm.
and have been lucky to find some things in the early days when very few other people were buying Star Wars. And that's why I wrote my first book, From Star Wars from Concept to Screen to Collectible, and had so much in there about the prototyping of toys and the early versions of things. And that book, a lot of people thank me or curse me for turning them into collectors as a result of that book, which came out in 1992.
Yes, and I have mine. I have my copy. I love that book. Here's an excellent one from Blake Weaver. He says, for most collectors, the main way we shop is online due to convenience and a lack of supply in physical stores. Does Steve feel there's a magic in hunting for merchandise that's been lost, with almost all shopping being done online as opposed to hunting for Star Wars merchandise in a physical store?
I think some of the magic has been lost, but some of the magic was also some of the agony. I can remember going to Toys R Us, like every, early, once a week, when on a Tuesday or when I forget what day it was, when the new action figures would come out, and the Micro Machines collectors would be there, and a lot of people were buying things to sell on eBay, and that was a bit distressing. And but I would go into in the early days, I would go into lots of toy stores. There were more independent toy stores. There was Toys R Us on the West Coast, Kitty City on the East Coast. So wherever I was, whenever I would travel for the Wall Street Journal, I would try to find some extra hours to go and find toy shops, local toy shops. And you just don't find many independent toy stores these days. And of course, Toys R Us is no more. And so it's now Target. And where I live, it's a lower level of Walmart and Target. And so a lot of the merchandise is not in these stores. You have to travel. And so it's easier and not as much fun to find stuff online, but things sell out like that when you know that a Lego special is coming out or something is coming out on the Target site. It just seems to disappear in 2 minutes, So I think it's the same degree of difficulty.
I agree. Yeah, there's something like that thrill of the hunt, but then by the time you get to the aisle and you go through all the baby clothes and all the other stuff through Walmart to get to where you want to go, sometimes it's not there, and that can be frustrating. So it is definitely a mixed blessing. I really like how you explain that. Colby Mead wants to know: is there a specific? I don't think there's going to be an answer for this. Is there a specific collectible that you haven't been able to get? In other words, is there a one that got away? I never thought about that. That's great, Colby.
I'll tell you one that got away.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I'm happy that it got away or I'm sad that it got away. But many years ago, and this probably goes back to the 80s, and maybe fairly early in the 80s, I was at a show and walking through the aisles, and from the side vision, I saw what looked like a portrait of Chewbacca, but sort of a three-dimensional portrait of Chewbacca. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I think I'll go over there and take a look at it. And then I saw there was an E.T. portrait. So I think E.T. had just sort of come out, or so it was 82, 83. And so I looked at it, and the Chewbacca portrait looked sort of furry. And I said to the owner of the booth, so tell me, what is this about? And he said, oh, well, we sweep up a barbershop floor, we clean up the hair, and then we paste it down to make these portraits of these characters. And my stomach did a flip. And I said, oh, thank you, and walked away. And I think I regret it, because clearly when somebody asked me what the tackiest item in the museum is, I could point to this Chewbacca hair portrait and say, this is it. But it got away.
Oh, I'd say that's a blessing in disguise. That story's invaluable. I love that. So Minta Pudva, and Minta, I don't know if I've ever pronounced your last name before. I apologize if I said it incorrectly. She wanted to know if, now she knows this is a hard question to answer, and probably one you've heard a lot, but while you obviously love what you have, are there certain favorites that just kind of speak to you for whatever reason? Maybe the memory of them, or just just the novelty of what they are. That doesn't involve body hair.
Well, um, some of my vintage pieces, I have the original Obi-Wan Kenobi figure that I opened, carefully opened,
Hmm.
but I still have the package that I opened and tried to sort of tape back. But because I put all 12 action figures on my shelf, and so, but I have got my original Obi-Wan Kenobi figure, and Obi-Wan meant so much to me in the movies that my original Obi-Wan action figure speaks to me and it is really a favorite of mine. And it's the original, the first one I bought, one of the first things I bought in the stores, probably my first action figure.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Tyler wants to know: is there any dream collectibles that you want that no one has ever made? In other words, you talking to Hasbro or Sideshow? Hey, can you make this?
What was the second word? Any what kind of
Like
collectibles?
like a dream collectible that has
Oh, okay.
not been made yet.
Um, I've been asked this by Hasbro,
Oh, cool.
and they haven't made it. I mean, and I've managed to source one for myself by having fan made things. The holographic, the Jarek table, the holographic
Ah,
chess table, and the creatures, the um, hologram creatures that were in Star Wars. It always seemed to me to be a great idea, and my friend Philip Wise in Texas made several of the chess tables, and they're electronic. The keys light up. They're beautiful. We have it at Rancho Obi-Wan.
mm-hmm.
And then a guy in the Midwest sculpted the hollow creatures, and uh, he did a remarkable job. Then there was a company in Japan a couple of years ago that made two of the creatures at a pretty good size, not the miniature ones like the Sideshow has done miniature versions of them. Um, and I thought, oh, well, they're going to put out the whole line. They stopped at those two. Apparently, my dream project was not anybody else's dream project. Nobody bought them because they didn't make any more than the first two.
Oh wow. Well, those ones at Galaxy's Edge are quite nice.
Yeah, those are. They finally, somebody was listening to me. I forgot about that. I haven't bought that yet.
Me
I've
either.
been to Galaxy's Edge once, the prior to the opening day, and I thought I would just buy out the park and just. But I flew in that morning and was flying out that evening, and they weren't set up to
Mm-hmm.
send merchandise home.
Uh,
And so I ended up being very disappointed and saying, well, I'll come back. And I've never made it back while they were open.
right. I was there then too. It's unfortunate I didn't get to run into you, but I remember thinking, what? Come on, you got some of the biggest Star Wars fans on the planet here. Let's go. But it'll all work out. Eventually, we'll get there. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise at the time.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just got two more. Darren Wilson says, has there been any thought of moving any part of the collection to a traditional museum? For example, the museum that George Lucas is working on building.
Well, George's museum in Southern California in Los Angeles is $1 billion project where he's going to have, I mean, it's an art museum
Yeah.
and a fine art museum and a museum of storytelling art and great pieces. He's also going to have stuff from Star Wars. He's going to have costumes and some of the ships and some of the matte paintings and things of that nature. There's really no room for merchandise on display in a place like that. So we have had some of the products on display when we do our booths at Star Wars Celebration. That's what the Rancho Obi-Wan booth consists of. For Celebration Chicago, we had about 50 Star Wars helmets. We had a Star Wars female outlook. We redressed a mannequin every day of the celebration in Star Wars wonderment. We had 20 years of Star Wars Celebration merchandise and art. It was the anniversary, and one other aspect which I'm forgetting right now. But So that's what we've done on a temporary kind of basis.
That's great. That's great. Mary Purdue, last one, says, what are your plans for collecting over the next 30 to 40 years?
The next 30 to 40 years. Well, as I'm going down the aisle on my walker, I think Star Wars is certainly going to be with us for the next 30 to 40 years, for the foreseeable future. Regardless of whether it's television, animation, movies, books, comics, merchandise, a combination of all of the above, probably, and things yet to come, such as virtual reality. We're certainly into virtual reality in Star Wars now. So I plan to keep collecting, although on a more modest basis, because I simply can't afford the way I was spending in the past. But we do get lots of contributions in kind to Rancho Obi-Wan. And so there are things that I have not purchased that sort of end up here. And Anne says, at some point, everything is going to end up at Rancho Obi-Wan. We plan for Rancho Obi-Wan to continue into the far distant future.
Amen to that. Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Once everything opens up, you simply must go and tour. But in the meantime, the Rancho Obi-Wan Virtual Gala is absolutely the place to be. I will be there, absolutely. It'll be the best $30 that you spend, and people can go to ranchoobiwan.org, and it's on November 24th, correct?
21st.
21st. I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher.
Saturday the 21st.
Saturday the 21st. Is this the Saturday before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Yeah, well, hey, that's great. That's a great way to start an incredibly important week for family. And Star Wars is all about family, and nobody does it better than you, Steve. Thank you so much for being a guest on CWK Facebook Live tonight.
Thanks, Stan. My pleasure, always.
Honestly, does it get any better than that? I can't tell you how thrilling it is that we were able to make it happen to connect all of you with Steve Sansweet, one of the most famous Star Wars fans in the world, if not the most famous. And now you got to address all of your questions and thoughts. So thank you. We're going to try to do that as much as possible with all of the amazing people in this community. I want to be sure to connect you to everyone and to have you feel like your opinion, your information, your beliefs are valid, and you have a voice here at Coffee with Kenobi. That was so much fun. Thank you so much, everybody. It looks like everybody's was just so happy about that. And I'm glad there's so much more of Steve Sansweet. Of course, go to the virtual Rancho Obi-Wan Gala on November 21st. You'll certainly see me there, along with Dave Filoni, Clayton Sandell, Ashley Eckstein, just a ton of amazing people. And hey, now he knows your names if he didn't already, so this is a great opportunity for you to catch it on the front end to support Rancho Obi-Wan. He'll be on this week as well. And then tomorrow you're going to see the show where I review the Heiress in much more detail. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live. Steve is a great guy. It was wonderful to have all of you so much. Ross, Mary, and I'm so glad for all of you guys. It's just fantastic. Just fantastic. So I'm going to sign off and watch the end of the Bears game with my family, but it was so great to spend tonight with all of you talking Star Wars, sharing the microphone with Steve Sansweet, and talking about the Heiress. Be sure to join in next week to bring your top fives of Chapter 12 of The Mandalorian. And if you're able to, feel free to join me at my next book signing, which again is going to be on November 29th from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, where I've done a number of lectures. May the Force be with you, everyone. So great. Andrew, love to have you, man. We're here every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We will certainly see you all next week. Hopefully have a great week, everybody. This is the podcast you're looking for. We'll see you next time.